Good evening, and welcome to the meeting of the Council, City of Norwich, for June 12th, 2017. For those of you who can, please stand, and Alderman Nash will lead us in a prayer.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessings upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, thoughtfulness in all of our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all of our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of our community. Amen.
Alderman Philbrook, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you all would please stand for a few minutes. A couple of days ago, our community lost a very important person. Jacqueline Owens passed away. And I think I don't need to say how much she meant to this community. And everybody she touched, and every person who was made to feel that they mattered and that they were important. And there has been no one that I have seen in this city that has been able to gather people together to make sure that it didn't matter about the color of their skin, about where they came from, about their level of education or anything else. They mattered to her. And everything that she endured to do for our city, no matter what the consequence, was all about equality and making sure that everyone got what they needed. So if we could please be silent for just a couple of minutes in honor of this really terrific woman. Thank you all very much.
Petition and communication. Communication from Comptroller recapping the 2017-2018 budget.
And I believe that is here on your desk. The thicker one is the update, correct?
Correct.
So with that, could I have a motion and second to accept it, please? Mr. Nystrom, Mr. Braddock. All those in favor? Thank you.
Old business number 1, relative to an amendment of the 2017-2018 budget tentatively adopted on May 1st, 2017 for the increase in funding for the Norwich Public School System.
A motion and a second, please. Alderman Braddock, is there a second? Mr. Nystrom, is there discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make an amendment. This resolution calls for a 2% increase.
Correct.
Board of Education, the amendment offered is that it be a 1% increase.
Is there a second to that? Alderwoman Gould, is there discussion on the amended resolution to decrease from this resolution to 1%? Is there discussion? No? I will discuss it. I feel that this is totally unfair. First of all, I asked at our last agenda meeting that resolutions not be put forward at the spur of the moment, because it does not give the public, while all of you hear of this, it does not give the public the ability to come in and discuss it in front of this council. And I specifically asked the Republican member of the agenda setting meeting for this agenda not to do this. I also feel that it is inappropriate to cut so much from our school budget. This morning I went to the graduation at Kelly. The awards, the academic awards that were given out were tremendous. Our young people are working hard, and the Board of Education is working hard to maintain a high standard. And to have this cut come at the last minute when people are not able to come and speak about it is just not right. And so for that, I will not vote for the new amendment, which places a 1% increase to a Board of Education. Is there any further discussions? Those in favor of the 1% increase to the Board of Education? That is Mr. Nash, Mr. Martin, Ms. Gould, Ms. Philbrick, Mr. Nystrom. Those opposed? Mr. Braddock and Mayor Henchy. The motion carries.
Citizen comment, sorry?
We need a final vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Isn't that what we just voted on? No, the amendment.
Then I guess we will have a motion. We need a motion? Or just a vote? A vote on the motion as amended. Those in favor of a 1% increase to the Board of Education? Mr. Nash, Martin, Gould, Philbrick, and Nystrom. Those opposed? Braddock and Henchy. It's a 1% increase to the Board of Education.
Citizen comment on, oops, I'm sorry.
There are several other motions that the Republican caucus has proposed, and I would respectfully ask members of this council to please make motions, at least bring them forward so that people here can comment on the additions that you all have proposed. Yes, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. It was our intent tonight to ask for suspension of the rules to add resolutions to.
Please so then ask.
So that way they may comment on it.
Please so ask.
I ask that we have suspension of the
And
rules.
is there a second? Mr. Nash? Those in favor of a suspension of the rules? And that is unanimous. Please proceed.
Do you have them in order, Betsy?
I do. So, we have number 1,
Let me explain something for the benefit of everyone, including the council members. Mr. Pothier has reordered so that you will know what is coming up and what is to be voted on. So how can we present the new resolutions and then they will be numbered?
okay. So one of them, which will be number 3, is relative to an amendment of the 2017-2018 budget tentatively adopted on May 1st, 2017, to restore funding for the civil engineer in the Public Works Department, eliminate funding for the human resource assistant in the Human Resources Department effective September 1st, 2017, and reduce funding for the Otis Library.
Is there a motion and a second to bring this forward? Alderwoman, just, so they don't have to vote to bring it forward? Okay. So we need a motion and a second to add it to the agenda? Would you prefer to do them all at once or individually?
Individually.
Who said that?
Somebody.
A member has asked to do them individually.
I'm sorry?
A member has asked to do them individually.
Okay. So do we add just individually? And do they need to vote to add it? Motion and a second to add this to the agenda. Alderwoman Gould, Alderwoman Philbrick, Those in favor of adding it? And that is Mr. Nash, Mr. Martin, Alderwoman Gould, and Mr. Nystrom. Those opposed to adding? That would be Mr. Braddock and Mayor Hinchey. And Alderwoman Philbrook, are you voting?
I thought I did.
I didn't see your hand.
I'm voting to bring them forward.
Okay. So that would be Alderwoman Philbrook as well.
The new number 4, relative to an amendment of the 2017-2018 budget tentatively adopted on May 1st, 2017, to appropriate Town Consolidation District unrestricted fund balance to mitigate the Town Consolidated District 27-2018 tax levy.
A motion and a second, please. Pro Tem Nystrom, Alderwoman Gould. Those in favor? That would be Mr. You guys got to raise your hands up there, please. Mr. Nash, we don't quite need that much, but get your hand out there. Mr. Nash, Mr. Martin, Gould, Philbrook, Nystrom. Those opposed? Braddock and Hinchey.
The new number 5, relative to an amendment of the 2017-2018 budget tentatively adopted on May 1st, 2017, to appropriate City Consolidation District unrestricted fund balance to mitigate the City Consolidated District 2017-2018 tax levy.
A motion and a second to bring this onto the agenda, please. Mr. Nystrom, Ms. Gould. Those in favor? That would be Nash, Martin, Gould, Philbrook, Nystrom. Those opposed? Braddock and Hinchey.
The new number 6, relative to amending the 2017-2018 budget tentatively adopted on May 1st, 2017, to reallocate funding for projects including in the capital 2017-2018 capital budget.
A motion and a second to put this on the agenda. Alderwoman Philbrook, Alderman Braddock. Is those in favor? And that would be Nash, Martin, Gould, Alderwoman Philbrook, and Nystrom. Those opposed? Braddock and Hinchey.
The new number 7, relative to an amendment of the 2017-2018 budget tentatively adopted on May 1st, 2017, to reduce funding for the maintenance and utilities for 80 Broadway.
A motion and a second, please, to put this on the agenda. Mr. Nystrom, Ms. Gould. Those in, yes?
Excuse me, I have a quick, you said that's resolution number 7?
Correct. The new number 7.
These numbers, don't go by the numbers up here.
It was resolution.
Okay.
It's not
Don't go by what's
Nope.
printed. Okay. Thank you.
Where were we?
Number 7, Nystrom and Gould.
It's
So all in
first and
favor?
second. Those in favor? Nash, Martin, Gould, Philbrook, Nystrom, opposed. Hinchey, Braddock.
New number 8. Is not under suspension. It was on the agenda as item 2. So it wasn't under suspension, it was on your original agenda as number 2, is now number 8.
This is the most confusing.
Motion and a second to renumber. Alderwoman Gould, President Pro Tem Nystrom. Those in favor of renumbering? That would be all of us. And Mr. Braddock, are you opposed to
Excuse me?
renumbering? We're renumbering.
Fine.
Let's try that again, folks.
Let's try it again.
Those in favor of renumbering? There you go. Unanimous.
New number 12. relative to request the Board of Public Utilities Commissioner for future payments of gross revenues be increased.
A motion and a second, please. Alderwoman Philbrick, Alderwoman Gould. Those in favor of putting this on the agenda? That would be Nash, Martin, Gould, Philbrick, Nystrom. Those opposed? Henchy and Braddock. So do we have
And then
them
we're
all numbered?
Should it? And we're renumbering number, what do you have this?
Numbers 4, 5, and 6.
4 as 9, 5 as 10, and 6 as 11.
Correct.
Correct. So we'll have a motion and a second, please, to renumber. Alderwoman Gould, Pro Tem Nystrom, those in favor of renumbering? That would be everyone, unanimous. Okay.
Now we want to go citizen comment? Yes. Citizen comment on resolutions.
So hopefully we'll be able to keep track of the numbers. Please feel free to just tell us what you want to talk about. Forget about the numbers. We got the numbers. But I would ask you to please state clearly your name and address. If you are not living in the city, but you want to speak about a resolution, please give your home address and your connection to the city, where you work, whatever the connection is. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. And please, while there may be some controversial issues here, I would ask that we respect everyone's opinion. This entire council wants to hear every opinion, and everyone should be respected. So I'll ask you to please maintain that for everyone who speaks. And I have several people who signed up. Fred Allen, Jr.
Good evening, councilors. I don't live in Norwich. I live at 610 Colonel Ledyard Highway in Ledyard. Been a Ledyard resident all my life. However, I've done business in Norwich for a substantial number of years. I work with my son at Allen Associates Realtors. I'm handling personally several properties in Norwich, attempting to get them sold and viable. I asked to speak to you concerning my concern that budgets, and I'm not super knowledgeable about your budget, but my 50 years of experience in serving the town of Ledyard, budgets always include some wants as well as needs. It's just part of the process. I'm not a politician. My 4 years in town hall, the official part of my 50-year career, if you followed me at all in the newspaper, you know that I'm not a politician. I don't say what people want to hear. I say what I truly believe. I believe that you need the strongest advocate that you can get for the city of Norwich. There are those who say that Eastern Connecticut has lagged behind in the recovery. I don't think you believe that. We aren't lagging behind. We've been forgotten. Last year, I was talking to one of the other brokers here, was the worst year in my 50 years of real estate license. Not because of Norwich, but because Eastern Connecticut is still suffering, and I believe will continue to suffer. The properties that I'm handling in Norwich, I feel badly for the owners, no matter what I do. I believe that NCDC is the most effective advocate for anybody that I've encountered in my career. And I would urge you to consider, whatever it is that you're considering in terms of reducing or eliminating, I believe that NCDC is critical as an advocate for the city of Norwich. I can't reel off the things that they've been able to accomplish, but I have never seen anybody work as hard as NCDC does. And I would urge you to not put them on the skids. Keep them as your advocate. You need them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Aaron Daniels.
Good evening. Aaron Daniels, 89 Union Street. Short, sweet. As you vote tonight, as you look at your budget, ask you to ask one question. Are you building a city that your children would want to live in? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Wendy Burry.
Hi, Wendy Berry. I do not live in Norwich. I live in Stonington, but I am the executive director of the Southeastern Connecticut Cultural Coalition, which has an office at Franklin Street in Foundry 66. We've been there as one of the first tenants since it's opened. The Cultural Coalition is the region's arts and cultural coalition. We serve 500 partners across the region. Norwich is one of our anchor cities, obviously. 12% of our partners are here in businesses here in the city of Norwich. I'm going to speak about two entities, NCDC and Otis. NCDC for us is our go-to for all things business development in the city of Norwich with the arts, cultural, and creative community. It is the front door that we use to send all of our aspiring businesses, new businesses, growing businesses, and businesses with challenges to NCDC. For referrals, for connections, for information, for promotion, for marketing. They have stellar service, and they have never failed us or any of the partners that we have referred to them for information. So I strongly urge you not to reduce NCDC's funding in any way, because it will impact the services, programs, events, and everything else that we so desperately need to have as our anchor partner here in the city of Norwich. In addition, Otis Library, a tremendous resource not just to your community and to your residents, but truly to the community outside of Norwich. Bringing in last year, not only the 2016 National Medal for Museum and Library Services, which is an enormous accomplishment, enormous recognition, raising the profile across the nation, but also bringing in Exploring Human Origins, which I personally served on one of their committees to help form ideas. One of the most community engaging exhibitions to come to this area that involved every population in the city was invited to participate and be involved in being a part of that exhibition coming here. It was one of 19 libraries across the nation to be selected to serve as a host for that exhibition, and enormously raised our profile across the nation. So I urge you not to cut them either.
Thank you, ma'am. Gerald Moyer. Did I not say it right? Gerald? Pass. Okay, thank you, sir. Robert Ballard.
Good evening. My name is Robert Ballard. I live at 244 Yannick Street in Norwich. I represent the Norwich Historic Row House Condominium Association. We are located in the Yannick Historic District, adjacent to Yannick Falls and Uncas Leap. Here to support the Norwich Community Development Corporation, referencing the proposed Resolution 3, if that's still what it is. The NCDC as an organization has been vital in the resurgence of our neighborhood, helping local businesses like Taste of Philly get established and become a very good business opportunity, being voted the #1 sandwich shop in the United States, thereby increasing the tax base for the city of Norwich. They also are participating in the development of Yannick Falls, the Uncas Leap area, which will maintain a bit of natural beauty inside our city. Our association of 31 units has directly benefited from the relationship with NCDC. who sponsored us to the Connecticut Trust for Historic Preservation. That was a grant to conduct a capital needs assessment to determine the highest priorities in maintaining our buildings. Our buildings represent the industrial history of the area as mill worker housing, supporting the mills that were at the Yannick Falls site. Our buildings range in construction from the mid-1700s through the mid-1800s. We now have 30 of 31 units occupied. It's hoped that NCDC can continue to support our search for other grants to continue the revitalization of our neighborhood. That can only be done if they have the funding to support these efforts. Our association strongly recommends continued financial support for the NCDC so they may continue supporting the Norwich community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Robert Janovic.
Hi, my name's Rob Janovic. I'm a resident of Waterford, and I am the general manager of Makara Vehicle Services here in Norwich. And I came out here 7 years ago to reopen and jumpstart this business. It was a business that Bob Mills and the NCDC was very instrumental in keeping here in Waterford. And my main desire here tonight is just to publicly thank him and to comment on a couple of things. Number one, the business that he kept here in Norwich is a 12,000 square foot facility with 26 employees and a fleet of vehicles. And if it wasn't for the efforts that he put forth, I don't know where that business would have been, and I don't know where I would be right now. So when I came out here, I had done business on the shoreline most of my life, and the interest that the interest and the desire that those towns had, Bob Mills and the NCDC is unparalleled. I mean, I've worked in these other towns, and I've seen nothing like the energy and the desire that he puts out. One thing I would like to mention, though, is that a lot of people may not understand the entire realm of what Bob's doing there. We had the opportunity, or we have had the opportunity to get involved with a charitable group named Friends of Mariah. And it was Bob Mills that actually made a phone call to me and told us about this charitable group and that they help out women that are having difficulty making their way in the world for whatever reason, whether it be victims of abuse or what have you. And what Bob did was put us in a relationship with them, and it's been incredibly rewarding for us because we've put thousands of dollars out there and we've helped these women get their cars fixed so that they don't lose their jobs and that their kids can make it to the school bus. And that's been extremely rewarding for me. So I just wanted to come here and publicly thank Bob and his group, and I just expressed my support for the NCDC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Bob Farwell.
Bob Farwell, Director of the Otis Library, 50 Mistuxet Avenue, Mystic, Connecticut. You know, I think you all know me as a reasonably diplomatic and unemotive individual, and that's not the way I'm speaking to you tonight. The way that this cut to the Otis Library was presented is disrespectful to the board, the staff, and the patronage of the library. It is nothing more, nothing less than a stealth attack. This institution, for the past 2 years, has brought nothing but accolades to the city of Norwich. And in both cases, the reward for that, for bringing positive light into a city that desperately needed it, is budget cuts. This is a cut. This is not a restructuring. It's not a reallocation or a strategic change in the way we do business. It's a cut. That's it. It shows no strategic thinking. It shows no demonstrable respect for what the library has done since it's been in the city center. And it was delivered to me this morning without an opportunity to present alternatives, without an opportunity to discuss it. I am beyond words with the way that this was handled. I think it's shameful. We have done everything we can to make the Otis Library a responsible part of the community, going beyond the purview of what you would normally expect from a library, filling in gaps, being a community center when there is no community center. This is going to do no more than create problems for an institution that has proven over and over again that it is an asset to this community. It shows practically no forethought. It shows very little regard for the people and the hard work that they put in at the Otis Library, or for the people who patronize it. I'm extremely disappointed in the way this was handled. I hope that you will see fit to change your minds and restore the funding to the Otis Library, which it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tara Borden.
Good evening. I'm Tara Borden, 19 Hawthorne Drive, New London, Connecticut. I'm a former employee of the Otis Library. I want to thank you, members of the City Council. As I said, my name is Tara Borden, and I am currently the Assistant Director of the East Lyme Public Library, and I'm here this evening to offer my support on behalf of the National Medal for Museum and Library Service winner, Otis Library. When I heard the Otis Library was chosen as one of 19 libraries nationwide to host the Smithsonian Institution's Human Origins exhibit, I was so proud. Not just for the Norwich community, but all of Connecticut, and actually the tri-state area. How lucky were we to have this exhibit come to the city of Norwich? The East Lyme Library advertised the programs related to the exhibit. I encouraged many of our patrons to attend. On a day off, I made an afternoon of it, coming with patrons from the East Lyme Library. We went to lunch at these guys, then we took in the exhibit, had a great day. In fact, those who attended with me came back when they had friends coming in from New York and New Jersey, and that day they went to Mi Casa. So the Otis Library is also an economic driver of the downtown area. Excuse me. I also attended all but one of the other programs presented by the world-class Smithsonian scientists. Otis Library sets the bar for excellence in library services in the area, if not the state. I strive to emulate the wonderful and diverse programming done here at the Otis Library, at my library, the East Lyme Library. Otis Library sets the standard as far as I'm concerned. You have a gem, and I hope you are as proud of your hometown library and its top-notch services and dedicated and professional staff as I am for the citizens of Norwich. Please do not cut funding to this resource that positively impacts and improves the community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Guy Palazzo.
First, Guy Palazzo. Let's see. I get nervous in front of the big crowds. I could sing you a song, but I'm in the entertainment business, and it's easy to talk on the stage, but this is somehow a very uptight stage. I don't know why, but 65 this November. Been here for 63 years.
Could you say your address, please, sir?
Oh yes, 6. Everything is 6s. 6 Harvard Terrace.
Thank you.
And West Town Street before that. It's Norwich for 64 years. I don't think NCDC needs my approvals, and everybody knows how much they've done for the area, so I'll just add my 2 cents. However, regarding the Otis Library, I think back to being young, and when I needed information, I was there. I was there rummaging through the card file. It was difficult. Whether I was looking up music or history or anything, and it took time. And now, though, my impression, I'm so busy, I can't get to the library anymore. So what do? We Google things now. It's nice to have a wonderful library like that, and honestly, my first impression is it's probably not up to the standards we need as in the high-tech world. And I could be totally wrong, but I can tell you, you could tell me all day long what I can find there, and I will get on my laptop and Google the information I need. Unfortunately, things have to get cut when dollars are low. And though everybody applauded for the Otis Library, if we could all make a donation, we'd keep it going because it's a luxury. But in the meantime, we'll go buy a laptop and we'll get the information we need. And someday, you know, I don't know, maybe I'm talking right out of school, that's how I feel. Also, I wanted to make a heartfelt comment about one of the departments in the city, and I'm going to refrain from doing that because I had a conversation here today that opened my eyes. So that's about all I have to say. Also, I really thought I was signing up for a cruise when I signed the paper.
No cruise, sir.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Norm Craham?
Good evening, council members. My name is Norm Craham. I live at 6 Wicklow Turn, Ledyard, Connecticut. I am a commercial broker with Berkshire Hathaway. My office is in Mystic, but the area that I sell and list real estate is pretty much in London County and southwestern Rhode Island. I'm here in support of NCDC because 3 years ago I learned what NCDC was doing for Norwich. One of the problems that commercial brokers has when we get people coming into the area, developers and investors, they want to know where's the best town to go. Where can we get some support from the town? How easy is it to get through the permitting process? How long will it take us to do it? What rate of return will we get back on this investment? A lot of these answers we can give because we as commercial brokers know the answers for the individual towns. The first thing that we find is many of the towns in our local areas have a very difficult permitting process. It could take anywhere from 3 months to 2 years to get either land developed or get a new business started. And that's one of the problems that we've had. How do we get through the permitting process? Well, when we started working with NCDC, we found out that they had made a major study as to the difficulties of the permitting process. They took on the job of determining what the permitting process is and what the permitting process should be. They came out with a book. I call it the Bible for successful permitting for investors and developers in Connecticut. And Norwich is the first city that has it. And I must congratulate NCDC for taking the effort to go through all of the steps that is required to get a permit. This is something that we are now promoting. I've shown it to people in Waterford. I've shown it to New London. I've shown it to East Lyme. And I said to them, this is how you should be doing the process of permitting because NCDC has found the way to make it successful not only for the town, but for the developer and the investor. On the second part, I had a property here in Norwich. I've had it for the last 2.5 years, the Fairhaven. The Fairhaven has been a very difficult building, but people know where it is. And the point is, it's only maybe 500 feet from this particular building. After 2.5 years, and only with the help of NCDC, did we find a developer from New York City who took the time to sit with NCDC, find out what Norwich can do, would do, to help the developer come into Norwich and buy the buildings and make the downtown area viable again. This particular developer is not only buying my building, the Fairhaven, he's buying 4 others. And hopefully tomorrow we will close on all 5 of these buildings in downtown Norwich. This developer has told me that without NCDC's help, he would have gone elsewhere. They have the money to buy. They're looking for properties that they can invest in, which will make it a reasonable return. The particular building that I have is strictly, it's 18,000 square feet. It has 21 units, I think 18 of which are 1 bedroom, has 2 retail stores. The building's in total need of rehab. It's been sitting there.
Thank you, sir.
But anyway, I just want to say that...
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Jill Fritzi?
Hello, I'm Jill Fritchie. I live in Canterbury, but I have a business downtown. And how did I get here? A scout from NCDC. I was at a small business association workshop working on behalf of my own town in Canterbury as chairperson for my economic development. And the sale was so great, they got me to come here. Once I got here, they never let go. They helped me navigate problems that I didn't even know I would have regarding parking. I don't have a back door entrance, so I rely on my front door entrance. They lobbied on behalf of to the Parking Commission to make sure that my customers and myself could have an easy transaction in the downtown area. One of the things as a businesswoman that I understand is, we all have budgets. But in order to make money, you need to spend money. And I think your investment in NCDC is well worth the investment. Within the next 2 years, we have a huge opportunity, a gift that we haven't seen in decades. We have Preston River Park coming in, and we have Electric Boat hiring. We need to have our infrastructure ready to go to grab those business potential people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Robert Buckley.
Good evening. My name is Robert Buckley. I reside at 18 Linden Parkway, Norwich, Connecticut, and I am a lifelong resident of the city of Norwich. I'm also a little confused, possibly because of the renumbering situation, but I think we were scheduled to have our funding cut under Resolution 3. Is that correct? Is that still the case? I'm not sure after hearing the resolutions. Are we still?
Yes, that resolution is still on.
That resolution still stands?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. As I say, in addition to being a lifelong resident of the city of Norwich, I'm also chairman of the board of the Norwich Community Development Corporation, and I'm asking you to carefully consider any reduction in the city's contribution to NCDC's operation. As a property owner in the Consolidated District of Norwich paying 49 mills of property tax, I'm very concerned with reducing property taxes in the city, and also with increasing the grand list. And I understand that while decreasing cost is a short-term way of keeping taxes down, it also decreases the services the taxpayers receive. A situation that, in a combination with the very high tax rate, the Consolidated District is currently the third highest taxing district in the state of Connecticut. It further degrades property values and necessitates a further increase in the mill rate. This is not a sustainable situation. A more sustainable scenario is to increase the grand list by increasing the value of properties in town and also encouraging the construction and redevelopment of new properties. This is what NCDC does. This is our primary core mission. In the previous year, NCDC has been instrumental in taking 66 Franklin Street from a vacant, rundown eyesore of a building that had been empty for over 10 years and turning it into a vibrant, entrepreneurial community filled with people and businesses that view being in an urban downtown area as an asset rather than a detriment. In combination with the investments made by these guys' brewing company, Epicure Brewing, and NCDC, 150 yards of Franklin Street is now a vibrant, active part of the downtown and has become a destination for people from out of town. NCDC has also been actively involved in the redevelopment and reuse of the Panema Mill in Taftville, a project whose cost basis and viability is greatly enhanced by NCDC's expertise in facilitating federal and state funding sources, as well as using NCDC's 503C status to waive some of the state of Connecticut's sales tax liabilities for the developer. NCDC also manages the Norwich Industrial Park and oversees the Downtown Small Business Loan Program and Rent Abate programs that have helped several small businesses in the downtown area. In short, any motion to defund NCDC is also a motion to retreat from the positive effects NCDC has had on the city over the last few years, and a clear sign to the business community and the surrounding towns that Norwich is not a community that welcomes new businesses or wishes to remain competitive in the marketplace. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Robert Mills.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and staff. My name is Bob Mills. I live in Niantic, Connecticut. I am the president of the Norwich Community Development Corporation. I truly thank you all for the service that you're doing tonight and through this budget process. I can hardly believe, the situation that municipalities are put in to deal with what's going on in the state. And, with that said, bless you all for tackling this problem. I am here to just make sure that everybody understands a few key things that are different about the NCDC that make it kind of unique. The first thing is, and you heard the Panema Mill mentioned, Because of our tax status, and because we have a relationship with the city as the city's development agency, we were able to do $5 million worth of tax credit funding at the Panema Mill to fill a very large void. $5 million was just a small percentage of the void that needed to get filled. But because of your funding of NCDC, we were able to flow that $5 million into the project, and that, with a number of other things, made that project go. The first phase of that project. The second and the third phases are yet to come, and they need the same services. They need the same support from NCDC and the city. The city stepped up to the plate and did a great tax abatement as well. But it's those kinds of things that make difficult projects work. And we are abound with difficult projects in Norwich. You heard Norm talk about some closings on Broadway. There's 5 attorneys involved in the closings in those buildings. It's complicated, it's messy, and nothing is easy here. So it is with the support of the city that we're able to handle and do a lot of these things. And the downtown revolving loan and the lease rebate and the code correction, without those tools at the city's disposal, and without somebody who knows how to handle them and implement them and integrate them into the rest of the kinds of funding that are available to businesses, we don't stand to do that well in the downtown. So I plead with you to keep NCDC as fully funded as possible. We've already suffered a 33% reduction in funding over the past 2 years and this year. The continued defunding would take us almost to zero. I appreciate your help in keeping NCDC vibrant and vital. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. John Andrusco.
Good evening. My name is John Andrusso. I live at 49 Cedar Street here in Norwich. I've been a resident of Norwich for about 35 years. When I moved here, Otis Library was pretty much a joke. Today, I consider it a beacon of light in a dismal downtown atmosphere. I am a retired teacher. I really enjoy having access to books as well as other media. If I lose that access, I can always make it up by buying my own materials. I'm sort of used to that, being a teacher. I am a retired teacher. I have the pleasure of teaching English in the Literacy Center on Thursday mornings. If my students lose access to books as well as other media, they will be losing access to materials that can be used to help them learn a language that is quite difficult to learn. Sit in on a class sometime. I can't tell you the number of times that I've encouraged my students to get a library card and take advantage of all that is held in that wonderful building. Literacy helps with citizenship. I am a retired teacher. Taking away access to books for kids on a summer vacation is deplorable. Students oftentimes regress a bit over the summer. One way to keep up their reading skills is to read. It's a no-brainer. For families who don't have the means to purchase reading materials, Otis Library is the place. And I'm not even going to begin to touch on what cuts to the children's library means. Please reconsider your plans on reducing the library's budget. You will be helping more people than you know. And if you would like to discuss my ideas or thoughts, I am in the book, and I am always open to a phone call. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kathleen Dish.
Good evening. Kathleen Dish, 210 Whiteman Avenue in Norwich. I'm here in support of Otis Library also, and am a retired teacher. I was thinking a lot today about numbers, as everyone in this room has, and I'd like to go over some of those numbers. 166, 130, 95, 6. Otis Library was established 166 years ago. My dad was born in Norwich 100 years ago. His dad was born in Norwich 133 years ago. My mom was born in Norwich 95 years ago, and her mom was born in Fitchville, close enough, 128 years ago. While I was not born in Norwich, I did come here 55 years ago. And our 3 children were born here in Norwich 43, 39, and 37 years ago. One of my 9 grandkids was born here in Norwich 6 years ago. The common denominator here is that 5 generations of my family, 5, has been very well served by Otis Library. And I'm sure many here in this room and in our community may be able to say the same. I think it's pretty awesome. 5 generations. Also, can anyone name even one institution that has remained a constant in Norwich since 1851? I don't know. But Otis has maintained itself here through a lot of hard work. And let's not reduce the budget anymore if at all possible. I do thank you for your service.
Thank you, ma'am. Mark Block.
Good evening. Mark Block, 138 Main Street in Norwich. I practice law in town and live at 108 Plain Hill Road. I'm appearing this evening to speak on behalf of NCDC, for which I have been a board member and counsel for almost 20 years. I appeared before you on one other occasion in the budget process to argue against a funding reduction, which has been enacted. I'm here again because the further reduction has been proposed as tantamount to defunding the organization and putting the further viability of NCDC in jeopardy. The question is not one of saving jobs or arguing against the proposed use of funding. This is a question of losing a vital agency in the city which has existed for 50 years. During the last 2 administrations, the City of Norwich has looked to NCDC as its primary development agency, a role that NCDC has assumed. NCDC has been involved in virtually every development project or proposal that is in the city for the last 4 years. When a developer comes to this town, he or she is immediately directed to NCDC. NCDC is the source of virtually all the information about the availability of commercial properties in this area, assists developers in walking through the planning and zoning process, and introducing developers to the city officials who are necessary to their process. There is no agency or department in this city at the present time that it can assume the role played by NCDC. This comes at a time when there has been an acceleration of activity, particularly in downtown. Witness the start of the Renaissance on Franklin Street with Epicure, These Guys, and Foundry 66. I would also note that after struggling mightily to get a lease with the landlord at Foundry 66, we have finally signed that lease. NCDC itself was a catalyst to this Franklin Street renaissance. There being no such activity, there being such activity that the traffic pattern has just been revised. NCDC has played a vital role in the Stackstone venture on Broadway, which you've heard about, facilitating the development of at least 3 buildings on Broadway. Who or what is going to fill this void? If the city is not in a position to fund NCDC on a long-term basis, then NCDC should be told that, and funding should decrease over a period of time to give us a chance to recoup those funds, and not a cut in the manner that this proposal makes. If NCDC is forced to close its doors, who or what is going to administer the code correction program, the rent rebate program? Who or what will act as the city's designated development agency? I ask you to reconsider this proposal.
Ryan Tedford? Or Telford?
Ryan Telford, 127 North Weekus Hill Road. I'm a parent of 2 school children of Mahan Elementary School. I'm here tonight to talk about the budget proposal for the school. And really, I'm just kind of, I guess, frustrated with the city, and not necessarily with you when I say that. I just want to know where the creative thinking is, where the thinking outside the box is for our town. I worry that our kids are being left out in the cold. So I ask you all tonight to think about, what are we doing for the kids in this town? We don't have a YMCA. We don't have a community center. We continue to put restraints on the budget for the school system. What do? Sometimes it feels like Groundhog Day coming here year after year. We either raise taxes, don't raise taxes, accept the school budget, don't accept the school budget. Not very often do I hear a creative idea, thinking outside the box, passion. What are we doing for the kids? Mr. Nash, Ms. Philbrick, what are we doing for the kids? Mr. Nystrom, how are we helping the kids of this community?
Thank you, sir. Jason Vincent?
Hi, I'm Jason Vincent, Griswold, Connecticut. I'm also a business owner on Franklin Street in downtown. And I'm only here today because I want to say thank you to NCDC for helping me start my business. I had a dream to open a business 20 years ago, to open a brewery. And that dream was only fulfilled because of the work that I was able to learn working with NCDC. And then later, through their support throughout the process of getting through permitting, to securing capital, and to developing the marketing program to open up. And we proudly opened our doors last Thursday, and it was because of that experience with that organization. You're the only community in Eastern Connecticut that has an entity like that. And as a professional that works in land use planning, I'm so envious that this community has that resource and those tools. Stick with it. Stick with the program. Stay on target. Also, Otis Library is an economic development asset of the city. To me, this feels like a little bit of a sadistic choice, and I wouldn't want to be in your shoes because it's difficult. But a budget is about priorities, and my priorities as a business owner are to keep the assets that are helping the community be the community that we want to strive for in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Glenn Carberry?
Good evening. Glenn Carberry of 27 Greenwich Court in Norwich, speaking to encourage the council to continue existing funding for NCDC. As someone who's been involved in economic development in this community since 1982, I think this is important for three reasons, and you've heard parts of these, I think, from some of the prior speakers. First, the city currently does not really have, I think, the personnel and resources available to oversee economic development from City Hall. Under the charter, the mayor has important responsibilities, such as establishing a vision for the community, serving as the city's ambassador, acting as a virtual concierge for people who come to town, and working with the city council to decide what your economic development priorities should be. But the mayor's office and the city council cannot be expected to serve as day-to-day implementers of projects. Similarly, the planning department, the city manager, the corporation council, they all have specific tasks to work on each day, and they rarely may have the time and personnel to engage on several projects at once. In contrast, NCDC has served as a resource for city officials and for this community in evaluating projects. The staff, the board, the board members, the volunteers, they have experience in implementing projects, and perhaps most importantly, working through the very burdensome details that occur with governmental agencies, private lenders, and developers. The second reason why I think this funding should be preserved is this is a critical time in the economic cycle of the economy in this city. Business activity in southeastern Connecticut has been weak for almost. The employment level in the Norwich, New London labor market is still 8,000 jobs below what it was in early 2008. Fortunately, there are some signs of a real recovery in this region. Our firm is beginning to see real estate contracts and projects occurring in Stonington, in New London, and in other places. Electric Boat is trying to attract several thousand new workers. Norwich cannot afford to miss out on these opportunities. You know that Norwich can't tax its way to prosperity. You know Norwich can't spend its way to prosperity. But you can grow your way to prosperity by increasing the tax base and creating conditions that support our existing businesses. In the long term, I think that's the only way to provide relief and stability to taxpayers. So sitting as council members, I think you have to ask yourself, are our chances of increasing the tax base better by keeping an NCDC viable or not? I think the answer is yes. Thank you.
Lori Danis.
Hello, I'm Laurie Danis, 21 Patrick Place, Norwich. I'm here to speak on behalf of Otis Library. As you've heard a couple times tonight, we were honored with the 2016 National Medal for Museum and Library Services. That was actually presented by Michelle Obama herself to Bob Farwell in Washington. It's quite an honor. This award is a reminder of the importance of libraries in our community and throughout our country. We were one of the only 2 libraries in all of New England to be chosen for the Smithsonian exhibit, Exploring Human Origins, What Does It Mean to Be Human? This was such a fascinating exhibit. Not only did we have numerous nights with wonderful talks from different anthropologists and stuff, we had 17,000 visits to the library for this exhibit. 17,000 people came to here, to downtown Norwich. This award and exhibit were achieved because of the talented and hardworking staff of Otis Library, thanks to our director and to the hardworking people there. Otis Library continues to be the community centerpiece. It's always finding ways to enrich our community. It's always there for our children and for adult programs, and it's essential to Norwich. I think we need to ask ourselves, do people want to move out of Norwich or into Norwich? And if you're getting rid of stuff in Norwich and you're taking away from your library, you're taking away from your schools, people aren't going to want to move to Norwich. They're going to be moving out, selling their houses. So that doesn't help our tax base. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the people who have signed up. So is there anyone else? What I would ask you to do, if you have not signed up and you wish to speak, please raise your hand and I'll call on you. Yes, ma'am.
I wasn't planning on speaking tonight. Susan Goldman, 35 Sherwood Lane. First of all, I'd like to speak in support of Otis Library. Somebody got up and mentioned that, you can just stay home and Google something on your laptop if you don't, and not go into the library. I work in the community development office here for 17 years. There are many people in this community that do not have access to a laptop or a cell phone or a tablet. They need the library. Without it, they cannot get the information they need. So that's number one. Number two, I would just like to express my outrage for the process that this budget is going through. This last-minute manipulation without giving people any upfront information. You don't even have those new resolutions that you put in under suspension of rules sitting out there so we can actually read them before you start debating them. It is totally unfair. I got on my phone. It isn't even online. They aren't even online. Pulling this stuff last minute is it's outrageous, it's unacceptable, and it's unfair to every citizen of this town. And when you do debate this budget, I would hope that you go through the list, because it's been so confusing who's getting, what positions are getting cut, what positions came back, what positions are going away. Please list all the positions that are going to be cut in September when you debate these issues. And also, if you do receive more money from the state in July or August, could you please give us an idea tonight which positions you will be bringing back and what you will be doing with that extra revenue? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the agenda? Yes, ma'am.
Alana Sherman, 65 Cedar Street, Norwich. I wasn't planning to speak tonight either, and I will be very, very brief regarding Susan Goldman's comments. Ditto. It is outrageous, it is egregious what has been done to the citizens of Norwich. You are cutting down on participation by pulling this kind of stunt. I would even question its legality. I am deeply, deeply, deeply disappointed, and my deepest fear is that this might cut down on citizen participation in the city, and this city cannot bear a loss of citizen participation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hi, Sam Browning, 671 Scotland Road. I will try to be brief. Otis Library has absorbed certain functions over the years. Part of that is the failure of the City Council over time to replace a recreation director. So what they've done is they've absorbed certain non-athletic activities into their building. They've also performed what, in essence, I would consider settlement house activities, such as their literacy volunteers are now teaching people in Norwich the English language. Finally, I'd say this. There's not a lot really going in the downtown. I mean, you have the Harp and Dragon, you have several other businesses, but the Otis Library remains your most vibrant institution, in my personal opinion. I would suggest that you restore the cut, and I wish when you had notified Mr. Farwell that whoever had their fingerprints on this idea had at least talked to him about the implications of what the cut would have meant. I'm not saying you could not make the decision to pull the trigger on this. I'm just saying I wish you had asked him what are the implications of this cut. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, again, I wasn't planning on speaking either. My name is Beth Thomas. I live at 5 Sullivan Drive. I've lived in Norwich for 46 years. I've been employed at the Otis Library since 1988. I brought both of my children up going to the library on a weekly basis. There's just so much to say. I don't know where to begin. A gentleman mentioned something about Googling. I would hope that we all know by now that you can't believe everything you read on the internet, that you need a gatekeeper, you need a knowledgeable, educated person to help you sift through the good sites and the bad sites, the reliable ones, the ones that are not. What I have been part of a team doing in the past 2 weeks involved helping newborn mothers with newborn babies gather together for support in the library. There's been toddler and preschool story times. There's been book clubs for children. There's been cooking clubs. There are knitting clubs. There are people learning English. I've helped people download applications to become citizens of this nation. I've helped people look for jobs and apply for jobs online. I've helped people get into women's shelters. I've pointed people to the local eateries downtown that we favor, that we use as we are employed downtown and go out to lunch a couple of times a week. I refer people to Leanne Gomes, and the fact that you are even considering cutting somebody from this woman's tiny little organization who does so much for this town and has done so much for this town for so long with little to no thanks. I mean, that woman deserves sainthood. She really does. And when each of you do continue to cut from the school budget, from the library budget, and from Leanne, and you have children and poor people disconnected from these sources, don't cry when they take your spare change from your cars on Cherry Hill, like I saw the Norwich PD post on their Facebook page, because poverty breeds crime. Ignorance breeds crime. So you're not having foresight. Several people have pointed that out, and it's true. And regarding how this was handled, no integrity, lack of integrity all the way around. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Rodney Bowie, 62 Roosevelt Avenue.
I took the time this year to go through the education budget, and there's not a whole lot of wiggle room in it. I would like to get an answer from somebody. I got up here one night and I said that there were 85 police officers in this city, and did somebody declare war on knowledge? About 3 years later, we now have over 105 police officers. That's at least $2 million in this budget right here. We're talking about laying off a civil engineer, cutting the school budget. I don't know exactly why we hired an extra 20 policemen. Seriously, an extra 20 policemen. Why? Particularly when we aren't raising the school budget by $2 million. And we seem to be in a quandary as to where to cut. But nobody seems to have the guts to take a look at some of our personnel, maybe even fire department. I don't know. At one time, we had more fire equipment in this city right here than the city of Hartford did. I don't know exactly how much we got, but how much can we afford? Now, my dad told me a long time ago, this way back in the 50s, he was handling pulp at the time, and he understood. The guy that owned the pulp company, he lived next door to a guy that had a house. Same thing, only it was his helper. But they both lived in the same house, same type house. It wasn't how much money you made, it's how you spend it. And this is what we got to look at. Can we afford 20 more policemen or 20 more firemen? Now, I thank you guys for doing this budget. And whichever way you vote, it's fine with me. You guys are the ones that have to make the decision. But look at how the money is being spent, the money that we have now. And Aaron Daniels said there's more than I want to say about the school budget. He always does. And I've had children that have gone through the school system. I've also got grandchildren in the school system now. So let's take a good hard look at where we're spending this money.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joe DeLucia. I live at 37 Sherwood Lane. And where indeed is the creative thinking? Where indeed is the outside of the box idea? Well, you were presented with one when you had an opportunity to move the school system forward in terms of consolidation, to take a step toward making the physical plant of the school system sustainable, and you dismissed it. Now you're proposing cuts to the school budget, and when a resolution comes along to provide a couple extra percentage points to help the cause for the young people in this city, you cut that in half. At what point is this city council going to demonstrate a commitment to the young people of this community? I encourage you most strongly to abandon the amendment that you have moved forward and seconded and restore the original amendment for a 2% increase to the school budget. And I respectfully request that you act on that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak on the agenda at hand? Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
John Blackburn, 15 Alice Street. The problem is, why you're at this crunch right now is because the state isn't doing their job. They should have had their budget passed by now. You try to passed it last week. You want to wait another week and see what they have to do, and to see if anything more would come forward. It hasn't. In fact, I don't know how much money you're going to get after this, but you are on a deadline. You have to pass this budget by this week. There's the problem. You can't wait. So you have to do what you have to do. Nobody's going to be happy, but you're going to end up doing the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on the agenda at hand? Anyone else wishing to speak at the agenda? Anyone else wishing to speak on the agenda at hand? Hearing no one, I thank you all very much for your comments.
New business, number 1.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, Mayor, may I?
Yes?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion for a recess, please. Members would like to discuss, one, the comments that the public have made, and we'd like to discuss
So
the
you're going
resolution.
to go, you would like to caucus?
Yes.
Is there a second? Mr. Martin, those in favor? Those opposed? So that was, you got Henchy and Braddock opposed. And what is your time frame, please?
15 minutes.
Thank you. Let the record show we'll adjourn for 15 minutes. Thank you all, and we will begin. We will try to make sure that you're clear because the numbering and everything of these resolutions has had to be changed. So we will, between myself, the clerk, and the comptroller, and the city manager, we will make sure that all of you know what it is that's being voted on. So bear with us.
New business, number 1. Relative to an amendment of the 2017-2018 budget tentatively adopted on May 1st, 2017, to restore funding to 2 police officers in the police department.
Is there a motion and a second, please? Alderman Nash, Alderman Braddock, is there discussion? Yes, sir?
I feel as if our city is safe the way that we're doing it now, and I surely would like to keep it safe. And I think the police officers are very important for us to have a safe city. So I will certainly be supporting this. Thank you.
If the council will bear with me, I would ask the chief to please come up. I have a couple of questions for you, Chief.
Certainly, Mayor.
There have been some comment from our audience about the numbers of police officers. Could you please clarify that?
Yes, currently our authorized strength is 90 police officers, and this proposed cut will bring us down to 88.
And could you please, other comments have been made, you know, why do we have so many police officers? And I know you and I and some of your other officers have attended the committee meetings and such throughout the region because of the opioid situation. Could you please give the council a little heads up about that?
Certainly. Crime in Norwich is down. Let's make no bones about it. The investment that the city council and previous city councils has made in the police department has paid off. Violent crime is down. However, we're faced with 2 major challenges. One is in the paper, and the second one is a little under the radar. First and foremost is the opioid addiction. Just going to throw some numbers at you for the last 3 years. 2015, we had approximately 13 heroin overdoses in Norwich, 13 deaths of Norwich residents. In 2016, we had 26, doubled the number. This year to date, so far, as of today, we have 18 heroin overdoses. We're on a pace, we're not even halfway through the year yet, and we're on a pace for 30 some odd plus heroin overdoses. Sadly, today I had the distinct displeasure to read 2 autopsy reports from the state for 2 citizens of Norwich who died from opioid addictions. Police have to partner with many other agencies to address it. We would obviously address the possession and distribution aspect of it, but we also do get addicts and those afflicted by this epidemic to services. And the closer we shrink back to the previous stated 85 number, the more difficult it will get for us to help the citizens. We'll have to shrink to our core missions. We have been doing more with less, and last year we were cut 8 positions, so we have been cut in the past. We're trying to, I'm very proud of the efforts the officers are doing, but we all want to live in a very safe city. I'm a resident here, and I'm proud of this city. I'm very proud of the police department, the job they do. I would ask you consider supporting this through whatever manner possible, so we don't undo the gains we made in crime rate and violent crime, but also we can use the personnel to attack our opioid epidemic.
Does anyone have any questions of the chief? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chief. I have 2 questions. Do your officers carry and administer Narcan?
No, we don't. Because of the issues carrying with it, and it's a controlled substance, and the paperwork burden carried with it, we do not carry Narcan. American Ambulance carries it, and they have an excellent response time, and they arrive and they do Narcan several people. Unfortunately, some of the Narcan saves we save on one day, and they are not so lucky the next. We have had that on a couple of occasions so far.
So your department is attacking the opioid crisis on a different side, arrests of people that...
Arrests, supply, and getting people to help. If we do Narcan people, we do follow up and try to get them into services. We have an excellent relationship with Human Services, the Heroin Task Force, regional efforts, Southeastern Mental Health. We'll try to get people the help they need. It's a very, very tough problem to kick, mainly because of the potency of the heroin you're faced with today. It's, not to sound crass, it's not your grandfather's heroin. It's hundreds, if not thousands of times more powerful, and it's no indication on the person, the quality of the person. It's a very tough drug to kick.
I had an interesting experience not too long ago where I was in the emergency room, and within earshot and eyesight of me in 3 beds were 3 people that had OD'd on drugs, and I was shocked. And I was just shocked. My other question is, you say you have 88 officers. Does that include yourself and the deputy chief?
Yes, that's from top to bottom.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Yes, sir?
Madam Mayor, you know, everyone knows what I used to do before I got to sit on the council, so I'll be in favor of this resolution. I know we think we may have too many police officers, but one of the reasons why crime is low is because we have, in this state, probably one of the finest police departments in the country, if not Connecticut alone. So I want to make sure that we keep it fully staffed, fully manned, and to protect all of our citizens. And it's not just crime fighting that they do. There are many, many other programs that the police department are involved in, which makes it every officer a very extremely valuable asset to the city.
Thank you. Anyone else? As you can see, my name is on it, so I am supporting it for a number of reasons. One, I sit on many of these task force. The opioid problem is just incredible. Children, I think the age of children starting to use prescription drugs has gone to what most of us would consider ridiculous levels. The other issue here is the community policing. In so many of the activities, such as the neighborhood watch groups, the sex offenders, all of those things that we don't hear a lot about, the officers are part of it. We have, because of the work we've done on Broad Street, and the officers, sometimes there are 2 there who that can report from different shifts and different times. That Broad Street Watch Group has gone from a group that was splintered, didn't know how to keep their neighborhood safe. They used the model of Greenville, and they now are a very successful and tight-knit group. And that neighborhood has really seen some improvements, both in crime reduction and other things. So I think that there will be no economic development if we do not have a safe community. Hearing no further, those in favor, and this is, so you know what we're voting on, this is the resolution that was set at agenda to increase 2 police officers with a net increase from general fund expenditures of $143,638. Those in favor? And that is Nash, Braddock, and Hinchey. Those opposed? Martin, Gould, Philbrick, and Nystrom. The measure does not carry.
The old number 3 to the new number 2. Relative to an amendment of the 2017-2018 budget tentatively adopted on May 1st, 2017, to restore funding for a civil engineer in the Public Works Department and to reduce funding for Norwich Community Development Corporation.
Is there a motion and a second, please? Alderman Braddock, is there a second? I'll second that. Is there discussion?
Yes. I'm confused. What new number is this?
This is the resolution that was put on the agenda at agenda setting that was formerly Resolution 3. It is to take funding from the Norwich Community Development Corporation and restore funding for a civil engineer. It would reduce NCDC funding by $87,000, and it would restore civil engineer for $80,699, and to restore the benefits for $6,301. This was a resolution introduced at agenda setting by myself and Mr. Braddock. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Braddock.
Thank you. It seems like council colleagues have gone willy-nilly in wanting to cut monies in programs. One of the programs is this civil engineer that we have in our city, and a city this size needs a civil engineer. That civil engineer was responsible for developing a $2.1 million grant, though he or she will not be paid from that grant in administering the process. But it's important that this person who developed the grant follow the grant through. And it was, I feel it's important that we protect this job. Public Works Department does not have the means of growing money, whereas NCDC does have the means of growing money. They can develop programs within their confines to make money, and they do make money. I think they're getting approximately $40,000 to $50,000 from the $3.38 million bond. That's a way that they're raising money. When Mr. Vincent was aboard, that was a salary. Mr. Vincent is not aboard any longer. The staff has been reduced. And this was a place for us to find dollars to keep this civil engineer on our payroll. And I believe very firmly that NCDC, with all the talent that it has, can go out and make money. That's one of the unique things of NCDC, and I fully support NCDC. This is not about Bob Mills. This is about a quasi-governmental agency that works. And they have the ability to make money. And I'd like to see them make the money. I'd like to have more accountability. And tonight, I'm just so proud of them that they finally got a lease after all of this debate and using taxpayers' dollars on a gamble. I'm so happy they have that squared away. It's only fair that if they are Norwich Community Development Corporation, that they know what business is. And you don't put $250,000 into a business without a lease. It does not make any sense. This is not about Bob Mills, it's about NCDC and about the ability to earn dollars, and I think that they can do it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm speaking against this measure. When I was mayor, I relied on NCDC and its staff greatly, and a lot of things were accomplished. The Norwich Town Mall was purchased. Negotiations were held prior to that purchase with the help of NCDC. And myself and city staff, our city manager at the time, and that was a great gain, a restored mall, if you will. They call it the Commons now. They've had an integral role in a lot of grand list growth. You heard a lot about it tonight from other speakers. It seems to me that this resolution is shooting Norwich in the foot, and it's a self-inflicted wound. We do not have on staff people who do this kind of work. Not the way the private sector can do it. We gain because they're in the private sector and the public sector. A mayor can go out and hire an economic development coordinator. If you want to talk about a new way to do economic development in Norwich, okay, have that discussion. This was introduced sometime Thursday afternoon of this week. Talk about last minute. We have activity in Norwich that I have not seen because of an economic effort on the city of Norwich, including our mayor, including Mr. Mills, including a representative of NPU. Members, our mayor has talked about that team that goes around and meets with businesses all over the city, and what a good thing that is. And she's right. That was a great idea. What are you doing to that team? What are you saying to businesses in the city of Norwich and anyone considering coming to Norwich? Does Norwich care about investing in herself? We've heard that mentioned tonight. By investing at NCDC, they help others invest in us. Track record is proven. There's no relationship between any city employee in any department and what they do for this city. None whatsoever. And later on, we'll address the civil engineer that Alderman Braddock talked about. And there is a resolution that will restore that position. This resolution is not needed and should be defeated. It represents a great harm to the city of Norwich at a crucial time when economic recovery is occurring in our city. Thank you.
Anyone else? I will be speaking in favor of this resolution. I think that while I value the work that NCDC performs, I believe that it is critical to have a civil engineer. And because I introduced the resolution to have a civil engineer funded, it was defeated by the Republican majority. And so in order to try and find a way to gain funds for what I consider to be a huge investment, multi-million dollars, a city of 41,000 people needs a civil engineer. This was the only way because I thought that we had gone through all the resolutions and when the budget was pretty well set, that if I took money from another entity, we would be able to maintain the civil engineer. I object to the idea that this was put forth without proper notice. I went to agenda setting with this. I notified both the executive director of NCDC and the chairman of the board that I was doing that. What you had here tonight was a preponderance of speakers for NCDC because I had the guts to put this on the table so that they could organize, which they informed me they were going to do. They could organize to get as many speakers as they did. That is not fair to the rest of the agenda. I will be in favor of this as much as I think it is sad to decrease cuts to an agency that has been helping us. It is wrong how this procedure has happened. No further questions? Those in favor? Then raise your hand and I'll call on you.
I'm going to start by saying, with all due respect, Mayor Hinchey, I'm getting a little tired of being chastised by you. We are equal on this podium.
Please proceed.
Again, I do not like being chastised, and I will go on the record as saying that. What we have done here is present a budget, a very difficult budget. We have no idea what the state is going to give us, and I challenge any one of you in the audience to come up here and do this job. You have no clue. No clue. You have voted us in here to do the work of the city. If I am going to vote against this resolution, but I'd like to give you some anecdotal information. It's called transparency and full disclosure. If we were to eliminate the civil engineer position in the Public Works Department, we would not be decimating that department. I believe that there are 2.5 civil engineers in that department right now. I will also share with you that recently a department within this city needed the services of a civil engineer, and they went outside and hired CLA. Explain that to me. Explain that to me. When you have 2.5 civil engineers on your payroll, why you have to go outside? There are so many unanswered questions. This budget is a fiasco. It's a fiasco from the get-go, primarily because we don't know what the state is going to do. Cuts have to be made. We have worked hard. It's the mirror image of everybody blamed the Democrats for the position that the city was in. Now everybody's going to blame the Republicans. I challenge every single one of you to come up with one cost-saving measure, one vision, one plan for the city of Norwich, and maybe collectively we can move forward. But I think you can see tonight that we are sorely divided here, and that personalities are getting in the way of doing the business that needs to be done. And I will have more to say as the evening progresses. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. The motion last week was defeated out of a concern for taxpayers in the city of Norwich. There's no relationship to who sponsors an amendment. That's not important. What's important is the focus that we have on trying to help taxpayers in the city, because they've asked for help, they've asked for relief. There's no pleasure in the actions that have taken place in this budget, the prior nights and tonight. None at all. But until we get our house in order, until we live to learn within our means, and this city has spent and taxed its way into this mess over the time. And there are different degrees of spending. I was mayor for 4 years. The average mill rate increase was 0.79 mil. 0.79 mil over a 4-year period of 3.19 mil total. That's the general fund. And I focus on the general fund in my comments. We have had and seen an excessive increase in that mill rate to the general fund since that time. And so the voters, the people, they're crying out for relief. And as much as we've cut, we did it with the help of our professional administration. The old ways when you cut a budget in the city of Norwich is you brought your budget book to the table, you sat here and you went department by department, line item by line item. There was no citizen comment. There were no public records or resolutions that the public could see ahead of time. That whole process has evolved to today. Tonight we amended the agenda, and people have said it was the wrong thing to do. It was out of respect for public comment. That's why we amended the agenda, to bring these forward so people could speak to those resolutions respecting citizen comment. The old way, again, was open the book, pick a line item, offer language orally. That's all that ever was done in this chamber. It is getting better. It is getting more open. This resolution cuts the legs out from the city of Norwich at a time when there's a lot of activity, investment is taking place. Panema Mills has been talked about tonight. Who's going to finish phase 2, the application? We pass this tonight. Is the mayor going to do it by herself? Nope. I wouldn't have done it by myself either when I was mayor. It takes expertise. They have the expertise. Do you want to see Panema Mills stall? Go ahead, vote for this resolution. There's been no thoughtful discussion prior to last week introducing this. And I'll repeat what I said earlier. I learned of this Thursday. You can say it was at agenda setting all you want. I wasn't at agenda setting. Didn't learn about it till Thursday afternoon late. So, this is a bad position the city will face if we vote for this. And there's no relationship between any employee in the city of Norwich and NCDC being funded. If anything, NCDC's funding and efforts help sustain a grand list that helps sustain our employees. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Braddock?
Alderman Nystrom, I think that this is probably a good thing. It's going to teach NCDC that there is a sense of accountability, that we would like to know what they're doing. We've had all kinds of promises that we're going to get quarterly reports. We don't get quarterly reports. They have to have a sense of responsibility and an accountability to the taxpayer. We pay them. NPU pays them. And I just want to reiterate, they have all of the ability to reach down and come up with a program that can generate their own funds inside NCDC. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? Mr. Braddock and Henchy. Those opposed? That would be Nash, Martin, Gould, Philbrick, and Nystrom. The motion fails.
So this is the one that's suspension of the rules number 7. It's now number 3 on our agenda today. Relative to an amendment of the 2017-18 budget tentatively adopted on May 1st, 2017 to restore funding for the civil engineer in the Public Works Department, eliminate funding for the Human Resource Assistant in the Human Resources Department effective September 1st, 2017, and reduce funding for Otis Library.
A motion and a second, please. Alderwoman Gould, President Pro Tem Nystrom. Before we begin, for the information, since this was an agenda item put on just tonight, it is to eliminate a Human Resources Assistant position for $40,258, eliminate the benefits, right? Isn't the next one benefit? Benefits for $3,373. This is to restore a civil engineer for the Public Works Department for $80,699. It is to restore the benefits for that position for $6,301. It is to reduce funding for Otis Library to $1 million, which would be a reduction of $63,000. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
And then this would be a net decrease in general fund expenditures of $19,000 $631. Is there comment?
Are we voting on these individually?
I'm sorry. No, this is a resolution that is in total. That's how it was presented.
You have something? I don't want to interrupt.
Do you have any further questions?
Well, my name's on it as a sponsor, and I was under the impression that they would be voted on separately. I think the end result will be the same, but I'm just surprised that they're all
Would you like motion
crunched
to
together. No, just leave it the way.
Would either of you like to clarify the discussion the two of you are having?
I'm sorry, I asked if she wanted a motion to divide, and she said no.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there further discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I want to let everyone know that spoke tonight that I listened to everything you say. I took copious notes to try to decide how I want to do this. But first I want to comment about these under suspension resolutions. We have to pass the budget by midnight tonight, am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So when were we supposed to present these resolutions? I mean, it has to be done today. We can't wait another week, another month. We have to do everything tonight. Otherwise, the budget passes without these resolutions. So I'm not sure how else we could have done it, but by putting them under suspension, give everyone an opportunity to have citizen comment on it that could make it tonight. I'm really sorry about the way this happened, but listen, many people elected us to do your work, and we haven't stopped. Not the first time we heard the budgets, not the first time we've heard presentations on the budgets, not the first time. We kept working every single Saturday or Sunday. We were meeting in caucus, beating each other up, in many cases, over certain items. And we did the best we could. Some of us wanted to get 2% for the school. We couldn't do it. We got 1%. But we all fought. And we tried to do the best we could, and this was the only way we could present these resolutions to everybody and try to balance whatever we could get out of this. We don't know what the state's going to give us. But if you want to hear passion, I got passion. Anyone that has ever voted for me knows I don't hold anything back. I don't lie. You get what you see. My heart's on my sleeve. I'm not thick-skinned. I take everything you say personal, and you can say, oh, big deal, you're in the wrong business. Well, maybe I am. But what's a gem to the city of Norwich? What's a gem? Let me ask you. Is it the library? Sure. Is it the Norwich Public Schools? Sure. Police department, fire department, the volunteer, the Rose City Senior Center, NAC, the rec department, Norwich Public Building Department, the Norwich Finance Department, the tax collector, the clerk's office, the human resources. Go on. I can go on and on because every single one that's come before us to talk to us about their budget has said they're the gem. They're the reason Norwich is succeeding. And when we cut them, we'll fail. We'll sink like the Titanic. Every single department that's come before us said, please don't cut us. But you want to know who the real gem is for the city of Norwich? The darn taxpayer that's got to pay for all this stuff. When are we going to have someone come up here and say, think about them, Nash? Think about the taxpayer. And I hear people say, oh, well, if we give this, it's just a small increase. Just a tiny increase over already an exorbitant price. Taxes are already nearing 50 mils in CCD. 50 mils. People are dying. They can't pay their bills for a couple of dollars, 80 bucks, 90 bucks, Nash. Yeah, on top of a $6,000 or $7,000 or a $3,000, $4,000 tax bill. I don't live in Cherry Hill. Okay? I don't pay an exorbitant amount of taxes because I live in a small section of Yantic with a little bit of property that I barely can afford. I can't afford it. When is someone going to think about me? When is someone say, Nash, we'll cut your taxes so you can keep your house? Come up here and tell me that this is unethical or this is unconscionable or this is deplorable? I understand the library is a gem to the city of Norwich, and you think I sit here willy-nilly and say, 63,000, so what, Bob Farwell? Good job, keep up the work. I don't know what to do, folks. People come up here and say they're going to sell their houses and move. Well, listen, I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do, folks. But we didn't do anything wrong. We kept working and working and working to find these monies. We kept doing our job. We didn't do nothing shady or sneaky-handed or backdoored, nothing. It's all been out in front. And anyone in here knows we've been caucusing and going over this stuff. Everybody. But you know what? I don't know what else to do anymore, folks. Raise the taxes, lose citizens. Lower the taxes, lose citizens. I don't know what to do. But this is the best that we could come up with right now. And if you want to talk about thinking outside the box, that's not our job. That's the city department heads' jobs. And I'll give you kudos right now to Tim Jenks and Taffill, who did think outside the box and came to us and said, I need trucks. But I tell you what I do. Give me 2 and I'll give you 3 back. That's outside the box. That's saving the city money in the future. That's what a department head's job is to do. Our city manager, the chief of police, the school superintendent, the chief of fire, the chief of public works, that's their job. It sits up here, and I'm wretched in my stomach trying to come up with these things and vote on this budget, knowing that our kids are going to hurt for this, and some other areas are going to hurt from this. But we did what we could. Every department in this city, in my opinion, is a gem. And I've done everything I could, along with my fellow colleagues, to try to save what we could right now. And if the state comes back with some money and says, here's extra money, we'll have that discussion then. We'll have that discussion then. But it's not going to be July and August, you can believe that. But once that happens and we find out that we have a little bit of a windfall, trust me, we'll all meet again and do your work. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anyone else? Mr. Braddock?
Thank you. You brought up Tip Jenks, Chief Jenks and Taffill, and how we're going to trade fire trucks. In the conversation, we're fighting for dollars here, trying to save programs. But when this is all over, they're going to come back and say, we want a $2.5 million bond to buy new fire trucks. That's going to happen. So how are we saving the money there? We're not. We're just spending it differently. Thank you.
Mr. Nystrom?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to speak about the library. Well over 2 months ago, I sat down with our library director because I asked to meet with him because when he spoke with us, he talked to us about capital needs of the library. So we got together because I wanted to see what those capital needs were. And in that discussion, we started to talk about the budget. And I was very clear then that I didn't think any single department would not go without a reduction. And I remember his reaction that night, or that morning, I should say, it was before work. He was pretty quiet about it, but it didn't sit well with him then, and you saw his response today. I went to his office this morning to talk to him in person. I missed him. He was out of the office at the time, but we got together by phone thereafter. This isn't easy, nor are the cuts in other areas easy. But again, who's going to care about the tax burden in this city? It's bit from every area. You know, taxes are supposed to be fair. If you're going to increase taxes, you try to do it proportionately fairly. If you have a chance to perhaps decrease a tax burden, your hope is to do the same thing and achieve that. I don't like upsetting him or library staff or people who patronize the library. I patronize the library. My kids were down there all the time growing up. And it's been nothing short of miraculous. It's improvement in everything they're doing for our community. But there's an issue that people aren't remembering. Departments in the city of Norwich don't have a foundation. They don't. They rely only on us. We're asking the library this difficult year, when we're still missing 40% of our revenues, completely unstated from the state, unknown, and yet we must adopt the budget tonight. State failed again to adopt a budget on time. The last time it was this difficult in Hartford, we didn't, I was there, adopt the budget till October 11th. That's a long way away. We are asking everyone to help us help our taxpayers. If we can do that, if we can help the taxpayers, we can grow our grand list. If you just keep piling the taxes on, grand list isn't going to grow. I can't tell you how many people I've met that have come up to me, and most of them thanked us for trying to hold spending in check, to trying to get this city to live within its means. And you may not want to hear that, those of you here tonight. And the majority of people who feel that way, they're never coming to these meetings. They are delusioned with government at every level. They're delusioned. New London's 9% increase their budget. Groton, 8%. We had a 6% increase 2015. What did the voters do? They said, we've had enough. People criticize us because, well, we're trying to keep our word, that we would reduce spending, reduce taxes. You can't cut taxes if you don't reduce spending. I remember an elected official said, I can't cut taxes, I'd have to reduce spending. I thought that comment was absurd. Of course you have to reduce spending to cut taxes if you're not living within your means. All our households have to. Why is the city different? The answer is it's not.
Is there anyone else? I will not be supporting this resolution. Again, I don't think that it is fair that a major cut like this to the library is not given the time for them to be able to organize and bring people to speak. I think it was, while I think that the civil engineer is critical, I do not believe that this is the process we should follow. And I think you heard very passionate speaking from my fellow council people, but what it really comes down to is not giving people an awareness of what was to be put on the agenda until the night of the agenda. And I believe in organizing, and I think that NCDC was given a very unfair ability to organize, and some of these other departments were not. Do you have a question?
No, I have a brief comment, please.
Please make it brief.
I think it's incorrect to again state that the library did not have notice. The director knew over 2 months ago that this was likely to happen, because I told him that. If he chose not to prepare between then and now for the likelihood of that happening after watching every other department take hits, that was his choice.
Thank you for your comment. Those in favor of Resolution 3, let me be clear so you know what we're voting on. This is to eliminate the human resources assistant, to restore the civil engineer and benefits, and to reduce funding for Otis Library. Those in favor of Resolution number 3. And that would be Nash, Martin, Gould, Philbrick, and Nystrom. Those opposed? Braddock and Henchy. The measure carries.
This is suspension of rules. Resolution number 8 is now number 4. Relative to an amendment of the 2017-18 budget tentatively adopted on May 1st, 2017, to appropriate Town Consolidated District unrestricted fund balance to mitigate the Town Consolidation District 2017-2018 tax levy.
Is there a motion and a second, please? Alderman Gould and President Pro Tem Nystrom. Is there discussion? Yes, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. This resolution simply takes funds from the reserve fund balance of the TCD, or Town Consolidated District, and applies it towards the mill rate in the TCD, thus reducing the value of the dollar. And that will be reflected when the final mill rate is established. That's the purpose of the resolution.
Is there any further discussion? Yes?
Yes, I'll just say that I myself, and I like to think that I sort of know what's going on. I had no idea that we had an unrestricted fund balance in the TCD and the CCD. I still find it, I'm still not happy with the explanation. But that's a discussion for another day.
Would you like me to call up the comptroller?
Yes, please.
Sir?
So the TCD and the CCD are accounting funds in the city of Norwich's general ledger, just like the general fund is a fund in the city of Norwich's accounting records. So each of those funds, if you think of it as like a private entity that's got subsidiaries, each subsidiary has a profit and loss at the end of the year, and that goes, the cumulative profit or loss that they have over time is that entity's retained earnings. So in the fund, in governmental funds, every fund has a fund balance, and the city consolidation districts and town consolidation districts have fund balances that have accumulated either from collecting more revenues than were originally estimated to be collected, or spending less than was budgeted, or a combination of those two. So over several years, this is the fund balance that has, these are the fund balances that have accumulated in those two funds.
With a follow-up, please. Spoken like a true comptroller. I didn't understand a word you said, Josh. Why aren't these monies in the general fund, and where do these monies come from?
So the fund balance in the town consolidation district is the taxes that are levied just on the town consolidation district residents. So if you live in the town and you're paying your part of the fire tax for the benefits that are given to the volunteer firefighters, then if the revenues exceed the expenditures in that fund, that goes into the town consolidation district fund balance. So to take funds out of the TCD or the CCD and credit them to the general fund would be against the charter, actually. It says that, you can't appropriate funds in between those three funds. They have to stay in their own funds.
So we've always had unrestricted fund balances in the TCD and the CCD, and we've always taken money out of them for whatever.
The fund balance had just grown over time, and in my opinion, the fund balance should be roughly 5% for the town consolidation district and 8% of annual operating expenditures in the city consolidation district. And amounts above that are just unnecessary, and should either be used to offset taxes like you're proposing here, or to make additional pension contributions, which would drive down future costs over a longer period of time.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Braddock?
Thank you. Josh? So,
Mr. Braddock, would you please lean toward your microphone?
sorry. Josh, so you're saying that in the CCD, we're paying 8% more than what we are in TCD?
No. What I'm saying is, so the target range for the general fund balance is 12 to 17%. I'm saying we don't have a formal policy for the fund balance size in the city consolidation district or the town consolidation district. I'm saying it's prudent to keep a 5% balance in the town consolidation district and an 8% balance in the city consolidation district.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
No, I'm not.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to point out that originally we looked at these two funds and we actually asked if we could use them for education department. We were told we could not, for the example that Mr. Parthier just cited. That's why we then determined that this was still a way to offset some taxes for people in the city of Norwich, to reduce the tax burden. And that's why the resolution is here. But we had looked at the education department as another source of funding it for them, but we're not able to do that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? And now what you're voting on is the, what was added under suspensions of rules that was not on the agenda. It is now number 4, and it is about moving monies from the unrestricted, this is in the TCD, the unrestricted fund balance, to mitigate the town, the TCD tax levy. Everybody's clear? Okay, those in favor? And that would be Nash, Martin Gould, Philbrick, Nystrom. Those opposed? Braddock and Henchy. The motion carries.
So the next is the suspension of rules. Number Resolution 9 that you have is now Agenda Item 5. Relative to an amendment of the 2017-2018 budget tentatively adopted on May 1st, 2017, to appropriate City Consolidated District unrestricted fund balance to mitigate City Consolidated District 2017-2018 tax levy.
Is there a motion and a second, please? President Pro Tem and Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, like the previous resolution, this resolution is intended to lower basically the fire tax, the value of what this dollar value is listed in the resolution. We have heard over and over again the extra burden that brings to people living in the town, in the central consolidated district. While this certainly isn't a great sum of money, it's the amount of money that we're able to use from this fund and still maintain the 8% operating value that our comptroller recommends. And again, we had hoped to use some of this funds for education, but again, we were told we could not. But we still wanted to relieve the tax burden further. And so that's why this resolution is here. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? That would be Nash, Martin Gould, Philbrick, Nystrom, opposed, Finchy, and Braddock. The motion carries.
Under suspension of rules, resolution number 10 is now agenda item 6.
Is there a motion and a second, please? Alderwoman Gould and President Pro Tem Nystrom. Is there discussion? For the benefit of the council and those of you who have still lingered, this is the capital budget and perhaps Alderwoman Gould and Alderman Martin would like to explain the amended portions. One of you?
Certainly. As you all know...
Would you bring your microphone down a little
sorry.
bit, please?
Sorry. As you all know, we must spend approximately $2,459,120, which is the minimum general fund appropriation. So we took a list of the capital items that we thought needed to be funded, and we put together a list. We then took the amount of LoCIP grant that we'll get in the state of Connecticut, and we came up with a list of capital items. Do you want me to enumerate all of them?
Just the changes, please.
Okay, so we have included from previous was $25,000 for city property management, which will be used to secure and maintain properties acquired by the city through tax foreclosure. We have included $7,500 in the city manager's budget for updating the harbor management plan, and we're getting a matching grant from the state on that. We have reduced in a few of the departments their requests for turnout gear, helmets. We reduced the police department's request for 6 police cruisers and funded 3. I think those are all the changes.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Again, I will be voting against this resolution, as I think that the public did not have any time to look at this and make comparisons as to what was in the previous capital. Hearing no further discussion. Yes?
Thank you. This spending plan for the capital plan, to a large degree, is identical to the one that was adopted after we voted on May 1st. So to suggest that it hasn't been out there is erroneous. It has been out there. We made changes. If you recall, the city manager originally proposed doubling our capital spending plan. With the uncertainty of state revenue and everything else that's happening, we felt it was best to go back to the 2%. And it's based on last year's appropriation with the budget. That's where the figure $2,459,000 and change come from. This list has been out there since May 1st. It is not only being shown tonight. The 2 changes that Alderwoman Gould talked about, yes, they're new tonight. But there's even been public comment about the grant from the state to help us update a management plan of the harbor, which is required by state law, by the way. And we felt, with the uncertainty of the state, why would we risk not even getting that $7,500 grant? So over the weekend, we put it in the capital plan, because it is a priority to update our harbor management plan. And the other idea, it helps our Public Works Department. When they currently go up and take care of these properties that are taken under foreclosure and board them up, that's coming out of the current budget with no way of getting paid back. So this is planning for a future and showing where the money's coming from. Not taking it out of a contingency account later on because they went over budget. They know what they have to spend this way, and they're able to address those needs to protect properties and the citizens who may live around these properties that end up boarded. To suggest that no one saw this, if they didn't, and they didn't pay attention on May 1st when it was passed tentatively, it was there and has been there since that time.
Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Yeah, as far as the harbor management plan, the Connecticut Port Authority came to Norwich and held their monthly meeting, which is something they haven't done for a very long time. They're very impressed by our harbor and everything else, and they went into an executive session on Thursday while they were here, and they awarded us the grant that said that's on the capital budget right now. So that's why it's in there. That's why it's on short notice, because it just happened on Thursday. So thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing no further discussion, those in favor of the capital budget as proposed with the changes that Alderwoman Gould described. And that would be Nash, Martin, Gould, Philbrick, Nystrom. Those opposed, and Braddock and Henchy. The motion carries.
Under suspension, Resolution 11, now Resolution 7, relative to an amendment of the 2017-18 budget tentatively adopted on May 1st, 2017 to reduce funding for the maintenance and utilities for 80 Broadway.
Is there a motion and a second, please? President Pro Tem and Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Phil?
Yes, I would like to have the city manager give us an explanation of the closing of that building and the relocation of people in that building, please.
May I? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. We are targeting as close to July 1st for the move as we can. We're in the process of doing some renovations to the park and recreation building to house part of the human services unit and also the city hall to house the rest. So they're being altered slightly. We expect to get that done in the near future. So the building will be vacant on or about July 1st. When I first composed the budget, we hadn't made a final decision on whether to close the building July 1st or not. Since then, we've firmed that up and we're accomplishing that task. This tries to estimate what the savings would be in two line items, one for utilities and one for maintenance. We have about 20,000 in there. It's not more at this point since we still have to heat the building and do certain mandatory maintenance things that you have to do. Ultimately, the savings will increase when the building is put on the market and hopefully sold. And we have not put in the budget anything for the sale of the building at this point, since that might be too speculative, so that's not in there. I hope I answered your question.
And a follow-up, if I may. So was this an agenda item, or was this added after the fact?
This was not an agenda item. It was added actually under the suspension of the rules.
I just want an even playing field here, so I hope that you were chastised also, so just to be fair and equitable.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? And that is Nash, Martin, Gould, Braddock, Philbrick, Nystrom. Opposed? Mayor Henchy. The motion carries.
So Resolution 2 is now agenda item 8, relative to delaying the hiring of certain positions and postponing the layoffs of employees funded by the general fund until September 1st, 2017, and amending the 2017-18 budget tentatively adopted on May 1st, 2017 accordingly.
Is there a motion and a second, please? Alderwoman Philbrick, Alderman Braddock. So that everyone's clear, this was agenda item number 2, and it is the delaying of hiring of certain positions and postponing. And this was on the actual agenda. It's just been moved to number 8. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. Yes. Is there further discussion? Yes, sir.
Yeah, the reason this was presented is to act as a circuit breaker. Right now, some people said that some of our cuts were a little aggressive, and they're right in feeling about that way about some of them. The bottom line, and the story's been told time and time again, it's like doing a budget with a Ouija board. We don't know what's coming. We absolutely don't. And we're preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. This is a circuit breaker mechanism that will allow us to revisit some of these cuts that we made, so that once we know exactly what our funding is in place, that we have the option to bring some of those positions and funding for those items back. Also, it doesn't create a lot of havoc among the employees where people are going to be bumped, and if the funding comes back and everything else, it's like to reshuffle the deck. It's not a good thing to put people's lives on hold and traumatize employment, and we don't look favorably upon doing that, and this is a mechanism to try to lessen the impact of that. That's why it's been proposed.
Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the sponsors, Alderman Martin and Alderman Gould, for taking the time to look at this and develop this with our staff, because it is a much more thoughtful way to approach these issues. Thank you.
Yes?
To me, this is an example, an exact example of thinking outside the box, and I think they should be commended for this.
I have a question of the sponsors, Alderwoman Gould and Alderman Martin. So what the two of the purpose of this is that if we find out whenever that we are going to get municipal aid, these positions will be put back.
On a case-by-case basis.
Oh, so it's not guaranteed that they're going to come back? You're going to
Not every single one, no.
So you will put forth resolutions to decide which of these come back?
Once we know what the funding will be, yes.
I see. And, excuse me if you let me finish, Mr. Nystrom. So will you entertain putting more funding into the education department? Is that part of this?
No, I don't believe it's part of this thing on this resolution, no.
Okay, so this is
There's
just...
two separate things. I believe this is more funding that we're receiving from the state to operate our city, as opposed to the education portion of it.
So...
Because they're two separate entities.
Okay, so this is for city employees as opposed to education?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Mr. Nystrom, did you have a comment?
Actually, the comptroller was trying to signal me. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Thank you. That's very
but-
nice. Mr. Pothier, did you have something to say?
Yes, may I suggest that someone introduces a motion to amend this resolution to take out the lines that, regarding the civil engineer, because that position was restored in an earlier resolution. If those two items for $13,450 and $1,086 are removed, that's a total of $14,536. The bottom line on this resolution would be a net decrease of $27,236.
27.
$27,236.
So is there someone who wants to make that motion?
I'll move it.
Okay, and then seconded by Mr. Nash. All those in favor, is that what we need to do? All those in favor of the amending resolution number 8? Those in favor? And so it is Nash, Martin, Gould, Philbrick, Nystrom. Opposed? Braddock and Henchy. So now we're back to... The motion is amended, and do you all have the figures that Mr. Pothier? Is there any further discussion? Those in favor of the amended resolution 8, there was resolution number 2. Those in favor? That would be Nash, Martin, Gould, Philbrick, Nystrom. Those opposed? Braddock and Henchy. The motion carries.
sorry.
I think we're on 9.
Number 9, which is your old 4.
Right.
Have a title to it.
Yes.
Relative to the adoption of the budget for fiscal year 2017-2018.
Is there a motion and a second, please?
What? Aren't we going after Resolution 12 before we go after the final budget?
No.
No. Okay.
It was reordered.
No, it was reordered. And so we need a motion and a second for number 9, which was number 4. Alderman Braddock, is there a second? President Pro Tem Nystrom. Is there discussion?
Is this former Resolution number 4?
This is, yes.
Okay,
It was on the agenda.
thank you.
Is there numbers that you need to give us?
Yes. So for okay, so brief summary here. The budget as amended through today has a total general fund appropriation of $123,799,419. A town consolidation district appropriation of $581,805, and a city consolidation district appropriation of $7,657,000, $657,212. And I guess the mill rates are dealt with in a later resolution.
So does everyone have that clear? Is there further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of resolution number 9, that was number 4, and Mr. Pothier has just given us the numbers. So all those in favor? So that is Mr. Nash. All those in favor, Mr. Nash, Alderman Gould, Mr. Braddock, Alderwoman Philbrick, President Pro Tem Nystrom. Those opposed, Mr. Martin and Mayor Henchin.
Number 10 is your old 5, relative to the adoption of the appropriation ordinance for fiscal year 2017-2018.
Is there a motion and a second, please? Alderman Braddock? Is there a second? Alderman Nash? Do you have?
I guess the appropriation totals are the same as the ones read for the previous resolution adopting the budget. I can fill in the mill rates for the next resolution.
For the next one? Okay. Is there any discussion or questions? Those in favor? So that would be Mr. Nash, Gould, Braddock, Philbrick, Nystrom. Those opposed? Martin and Henchin. The measure carries.
Your old number 6 is now number 11, relative to adoption of the tax levy ordinance for fiscal year 2017-2018.
A motion and a second, please. Mr. Nash, Mr. Braddock. I believe we'll give Mr. Pothier, who's quite talented, but taking a little time here.
Okay, so now for fill in the blank. Section 1, the mill rate for the real estate and personal property for the whole city of Norwich, that's the general fund mill rate, is 40.52 mils. For Section 3, the mill rate for the real estate and personal property in the town consolidation district is 0.15 mils. And in Section 4, for the real estate and personal property within the city consolidation district, the mill rate is 8.22 mils.
Can I repeat them so that
Sure.
everyone sure they have them? So section 1, 40.52.
Yes,
In section 3, it is 0.15.
yes,
And in section 4, it is 8.22.
correct.
Is there discussion? Yes, sir?
On section 4, it says on the city assessment list of 2016, a tax of 8.22 mils. What is that? You gave on section 1, you gave us a list of 40.52. Now, what's the spread down below for the CCD?
So if you live in
48.7.
if you live in the town consolidation district, then the total mill rate of 40.52 would be added to the TCD rate of 0.15 for a total of 40.67 mils. And if you live in the CCD, the total mill rate of would be 40.52 plus 8.22 for a total of 48.74 mils in the city consolidation district. The 8.22 is the fire tax. It's by itself.
Is there further questions or discussion? Yes?
I just want to reiterate now that we have the final numbers that like we hear every year, this has been an extremely difficult budget season. I will strongly advocate that we start in September with the budget process, and this will mean that council members, department heads, city manager will meet on a regular basis and have in-depth conversations. I've long been an advocate for a finance and advisory board who could do a lot of the legwork. I will commend Alderwoman Gould, who has gone above and beyond with her research and information that she has brought back to us. It's been invaluable. She's employed. She's taken time out of her business to do this. You won't find a more dedicated person, in my opinion. As you can see, we are strongly divided here, split right down political lines. A budget shouldn't be about politics. A budget should be about moving the city forward. And until we get past that, I don't see the city moving forward. I guess I'm a pessimist rather than an optimist, but I've been around for 74 years, and I've learned a lot through my life experiences. I think the most important thing I learned is, as a young woman, as a single mother, I had credit cards. And I thought, well, my goodness, you go to the store and you use your credit card, you use your credit card, you use your credit card. And then the bills come in, and you don't have the money to pay your credit cards. You might lose your car. You might lose your house. You might find yourself in court. The city should not be run any differently. I've heard it many times that we don't have a spending problem here, we have a revenue problem. But I will go one step further and share with you a comment made by a department head not too long ago who said to their employee, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but you'll get the general idea, it's the end of the year. Buy whatever you want because we need to spend. We need to zero out. And I'm paraphrasing, we need to zero out our line items. And I think that if that's the mentality here, then shame on you. So again, it's a very difficult budget. We've done what we've had to do. We'll all wait with bated breath to see what the state comes up with, and we'll be here again before you, making some people happy and some people not so happy.
Any further? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may, a question to Mr. Pothier. You cited for us the mill levies. Could you cite for us the difference from the mill rate last year versus this year?
Sure. So for the general fund, it decreased 0.7 mils from 41.22 to 40.52. In the town consolidation district, it decreased from 0.47 mils to 0.15 mils, so that's a 0.32 mil difference. And in the city consolidation district, it increased from 7.84 mils to 8.22 mils, a 0.38 mil difference.
And if I may, the total mill rate in the Central Consolidated District as compared to last year versus this year?
Decreased 0.32 mils from 49.06 to 48.74. And the town decreased from 41.69 mils to 40.67 mils, 1.02 mil decrease.
Thank you. Just briefly, as difficult as this budget has been, one must consider the fact that there were still items we couldn't control, contractual obligations, the pension increase payment, the insurance increase payment. Those last two, I think, were about $1.5 million over and above, and we have no ability to say, no, we're not going to pay that bill. So for all our efforts to cut and save, it just demonstrates how difficult it is when the majority of your expenses really are salary and benefits in the community, anywhere you live. The City of Norwich has, in my opinion, our effort has been to change direction, not just increase taxes and keep spending. I look around the cities around us and towns around us. 9% increases, 8% increases. East Haddam had a 7% increase, and the voters turned that budget down 2-1. They're going back to the budget process. People need relief, and none of these are easy decisions. But supporting relief for taxpayers in Norwich is a priority for us. I hope it becomes a priority for everybody someday. We're not there yet.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman Gay.
As all of you who are here tonight, I'm sure most of you have read the newspapers in the last weeks, days, months, that our state legislators have failed the taxpayers of Connecticut and have left this council and many other communities with the difficult task of passing a budget without knowing whether or not we will receive revenue from the state of Connecticut or we're going to receive a cut from the state of Connecticut. I was looking at the Norwich Bulletin, the thumbs up and thumbs down section, and I'm going to quote them. It is a testament to the severity of our fiscal trouble that legislators in the state capitol cannot perform the core function of passing a budget within an ordinary legislative timeline. We may find out, as the mayor said and others have said, maybe it'll be July, maybe it'll be August, maybe it'll be September. But I can assure you that once we know the final number from the state, this council will meet and discuss what happens to our budget here. And there'll be some people who leave here tonight who will be disappointed and have to figure out how they're going to do their job with less. There's going to be people who said, well, I had a job and maybe I won't have a job. This was not easily done. It was wrangled about, argued about, bantered about, thought about. I'm surprised the binding's still holding up on this book. And I want to thank Alderwoman Philbrick for her comments. I take what I do here on the City Council very seriously. I walk around, I sleep with this book almost under my pillow. At midnight tonight, the budget will be what the budget is. And thank you for having the confidence in us to do this tonight. And like I said, some people are going to leave here disappointed, and I'm sorry. And some people are going to leave here and say, phew, I still have my job. This hasn't been easy, but we were elected to do a difficult job, and we've done it to the best of our ability. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing no further discussion? Yes, sir.
I have one comment. On the mill rate for the auto, for the motor vehicle tax, we are estimating that it's going to remain at 37 mils rather than be reduced to 32 because it's been in the budgets of the governor to reduce, to eliminate that funding and the state legislature. So at this point, the 37 is the mill rate that exists right now, and the program to reduce the reliance on the motor vehicle tax has been, for lack of a better word, abandoned by the state of Connecticut, that experiment that they had. So we'll be remaining at the 37 number at this point.
Yes.
Thank you. This is just informational, but you may have read that there was a legislative effort to amend the law to allow for towns to adjust their mill rates in their budgets once the state of Connecticut has passed their budget. That did pass the House, that did not pass the Senate, which means that vehicle is not available to us unless they add it in with their budget submission, if and when they get a budget. I don't want people leaving tonight thinking we have that tool to our hand at advantage. We do not. It did not get out of the Senate. So it's not just the budget they need to remember. They need to remember to look at that legislation providing some flexibility for every city and town across the state of Connecticut. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none. Is everyone clear on the mill rates? So I won't go over it again. Those in favor of what is now Resolution 11? And that is Mr. Nash, Martin, Gould, Radek, Philbrick, Nystrom. Those opposed? Inchi.
Number 12, relative to the request of the Board of Public Utilities Commissioners that future payments of gross revenue be increased.
Is there a motion and a second, please? Mr. Nash, Alderwoman Philbrick. Is there discussion? Yes, sir?
I brought forward this with Alderwoman Philbrick because since I was elected the first time, which was a little ways back, I've been trying to understand why NPU's contributions have not increased to the city as well as every other place has increased. Cost of living, every year the school board needs more, the police need more, the fire need more, public works needs more, and we're forced to give them, or we have to give them what we can afford. Yet NPU just continues to send us the same 10% with no increases, and none have been asked. And for some reason, we talk about sacred cows in our city, and this seems to be one that we don't want to ruffle the feathers of. But I believe it's time for NPU. Some people call this a double tax, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's time for NPU to contribute a little bit more of the gross revenues back to the city. After all, you own it. It's ours, and we should have a right to get a little bit more of that money to help us through some of our budget issues. This won't take place, obviously, this year. It'll be for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. So I would be in favor of this and ask the rest of you to support it.
Any further discussion? I won't be supporting this again. Based on the same arguments I've made on some of these others, this absolutely could have been done at agenda setting so that the public could have been posted on it. Whether it's a good idea or a bad idea is not my argument here, but I don't believe this should have been added under suspension of the rules. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, this only provides notification to NPU that this is a request from this side of government. They won't act on it again until their next budget process. That's when that process actually begins. They actually, I believe, the Corporation Council can correct me, they can actually say, no, we're not going to increase it, or can they?
The second from the next budget.
Second, yeah. Okay, so, I mean, this is really a notification. That's all it represents. It's not changing anything in the current budget. The current budget has been adopted. It just starts the communication rolling between this board and that board, and that's what it's about. The city certainly has needs, and if there's a way to increase that revenue without harming their mission statement, we'll have that dialogue, and that's what it's about. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of Resolution 12 that was added under suspension of the rules? And that would be everyone except for me, and I will vote negative. The motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A second, please. Mr. Martin, and those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you all.